They deny us, then they try us, the outcome's the same. We get punished as aggressors, they ignoring the claim. When the outcome's prearranged, when the justice ain't the same.
So my name is Dasan Ahanu, born and raised in North Carolina, born in Raleigh, residing in Durham, North Carolina, and I am a professional artist. I'm a poet, spoken word artist. I've been involved in poetry slam. I'm a recording artist involved in hip hop and jazz and soul, work with a lot of musicians and artists in North Carolina and across the country. I'm also co-founder and managing director of Black Poetry Theater. We do original spoken word and poetry-based theatrical productions. I'm a college professor. I got my start at St. Augustine's College, now St. Augustine's University. And I'm a visiting lecturer with the music department at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and also a pop culture scholar who looks at the way that we can use pop culture, especially hip hop, to engage young folks, to push them to think and dream and all of those wonderful things. So this is the life that I've been able to live. The first time that I walked into an open mic, I got introduced also to a social justice community. There were elders in the community who were looking for young folks to get them involved. And there's just a long legacy, especially for Black freedom fighters in this area. I was just kind of like wide-eyed and just like excited. And so I stepped into this community of folks out in the streets organizing. And they were happy to equip us, to kind of introduce us to concepts and teach us about how to build movement. And so that began to inform my work. So as I'm growing as an artist and a poet and kind of getting my voice and my confidence, I'm also learning what it means to fight and struggle. I'm getting educated. I'm getting introduced to books and things that I've never heard before: feminist politics, womanist politics, intersectionality. And so that began to inform the way that I think about moving. So the hats that I wear, the kinds of things that I do in the community, the space that I hold for artists, is because I was learning to be an artist as I was learning to be an organizer. Building community, being in community with folks is a part of just how I'm, taught. On top of the fact that I'm a Southern boy. I'm not a transplant to North Carolina like many folks are. I was born and raised here, and when you're born and raised in the South, we move a little different. If you family, if you in the neighborhood, if you're part of the church, like, we take care of our own, regardless of the differences, regardless of the tension. And when you are welcomed in, we hold you down, and we accept people as they are. So to come up from that and then be introduced to the idea of like, that's how you should build community, and recognize that, especially for Black folks, that is the remnants of what we brought here. That idea of how to hold folks together, especially when you're dealing with all these kinds of struggles in the world. So my art became a reflection of all these experiences. I like to tell stories. I like to paint pictures, because I know that folks can argue ideology, and folks can argue theory. But what's harder for you to argue is when I make this make sense in the context of how it affects someone's life. And so when I do that, you can't run from it as much, because you're running from a person, not an idea. And so that is the kind of way that I weave my art together. Whether it's, regardless of what the beat is or what the stage is or what the moment is, I think about like, what's the story to tell? And how can I use that to make people think differently? They deny us, then they try us, the outcome's the same. We get painted as aggressors, they ignoring the claims. When the outcome's prearranged, when the justice ain't the same, can you understand the pain? Are you adding up the names? So tell me about a young girl's voice when she's sitting in an office with a suit, who say he want the truth, protect the perpetrator like he above reproach, and try to make it seem like it was her choice. When a ball equates a dollar sign, tell me about the bottom line. Administrators tapping like they all jumped on the chorus line, that dance ain't cute, this here ain't the truth. That's why I'm spitting fire when I'm up in the booth. When that chalked outline lets you know that there's proof that the devil took a bite, that's a mark from his tooth. How long we gonna sit back and let them feast on our youth? How long before we see that the beast been loose? Ain't no need to be afraid or get stuck in the fray. We gonna make our stand right here, so to God I pray. We resisting all oppression with our right hand raised, and let them know it's either change or we set it ablaze. I wrote that verse for a song with an artist that I've been working with for a long time named Ty Allen. And when he sent me the song, what resonated with me was the idea of these kings and queens being put in situations where they're crowned crooked, but they still have on a crown. So it's the idea that no matter what you're facing, we're still special, and we're still beautiful, and we're still here. So I wanted to take that as an opportunity to talk about some of the things that were kind of prevalent at that point in time. And there were two major conversations happening: the Me Too movement Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, all of these kinds of things. And it was a real tense moment in the Black community for reconciling what it means to have very difficult conversations around that topic, especially when we're talking about rape culture. And then at the same time, all the killings, especially the killings at the hand of the police. And having that conversation at the same time that we're also losing young people to a number of other kinds of things. And so I wanted to kind of balance that. And so with that, I started, with the idea of talking about inadequate and equal justice. And the idea that we get painted as aggressors, like that angry Black kind of stereotype that we always have to face, which is used as justification for why the penalties for us are so different. And then can you understand the pain? And then are you adding up the names? As we continue to have to call out to say their name, say her name, say his name, and how the names just keep compiling. And then it begins to start with the idea, so tell me about a young girl's voice. And she's sitting in an office with a suit. So for me, I have a background in advocacy and education and awareness work around sexual assault and domestic violence. And I've done it in higher ed settings. And that ongoing story of hearing survivors say that when they spoke out, depending on who they were speaking about, it gets suppressed. So folks say they want the truth, but then protect the perpetrator like he above reproach. And so it's the idea of who is it? Is it somebody well known on campus? Is it an athlete? And then of course, when a ball equates a dollar sign, which is an ongoing thing about Black bodies and Black athletes and the value of them, but also that it's big business and big money. So then what's the bottom line? What's more important? Her experience or the worth that this person brings to your university? And then of course, administrators tapping like they all jumped on the chorus line, as artists, that's just a nice flip. And so then the idea, of course, if you're gonna talk about these things, then you're eating and spitting fire. Like those words are just so powerful and they're lit. And it's the idea you spit that fire and it sets it off and makes the track high. And then from there to just talk, so that chalk outline lets you know that it's proof that the devil took a bite that's a mark from his tooth. So it's a white chalk outline to the idea that if the devil bit down and that the dust from his shiny teeth would leave the white chalk outline on the asphalt, is where that comes from. And how long we're gonna sit back and let him feast on our youth? That bite means he's eating at the youth and taking them away from us. How long before we see the beast been loose? And so the idea of this beast of burden, but also seeing these killers as beasts, as the demons and devils that they are. And then of course from there, it's like no need to be afraid, no need to get caught up in the fray. Like, don't be worried, be strong, we are strong. We're gonna make our stand right here. And then of course, I'm a Southern boy raised in a God-fearing household, so the God I pray. So before we make this move, let's just pray, But hey, let them know it's either change, or as we are seeing in these days and times, we're gonna set it ablaze.
She's a queen, sometimes she forgets her jewels and wears and wears.